And we welcome you back once again to the first ever 2025 edition of the Ollie Reed Sports Podcast, giving you the news and notes around the world of high school basketball across the Mountain State and beyond. And we are back here, start off 2025 with a bang, to welcome in Spring Mills as they take on the Morgantown High School Mohegans at the Rowdy Center tomorrow night. At do you know what time? I honestly thought it was gonna be at 7:30.
Should be 7:30 tip off. Yeah.
Okay, because I know they're an Eastern Panhandle school, and I know it's kind of like a 2.5 hour drive down from the Eastern Panhandle to Morgantown. And I know, like, whenever Martinsburg came, it used to be like a 7 p.m. game or 7:15 game. But for right now, it says 7:30. Lord willing, the game will be happening. Hopefully, we don't have any other cancellations or any postponements due to all this snow that we've been getting this last few weeks.
Yeah.
But other than that, we got a little preview show here for the two of the best teams in the state of West Virginia. So Michael Griffith, since you know Morgantown team so well, and I got to see these teams play. Both these teams are the best, in my opinion, two of the top teams in the state in general, and it should be a fun one. And I know you have a little preview of yours, so the floor is yours, man. Take it away.
Yeah, thanks, man. It will be nice to get back to basketball. I'd like to actually go to work this week, because I didn't get to go to work last week. Except a couple days. I did some WG wrestling last week. That was pretty fun.
Oh yeah,
so,
the Pit Backyard Brawl. Yeah.
Yeah, they got a pretty good team, pretty good program. But yeah, you're right. I do know a lot about Morgantown this year, and especially, obviously, everyone knows a lot about Spring Mills, no matter where you are in the state right now. So, but you're right. This is, if there was any question about the game of the year in boys high school basketball, I think that this is the answer. This is it's a rematch of the state championship last year, like you said. A lot of the same players that impacted that game will be playing in this game. Spring Mills brings back their entire starting five, including a lot of their bench. And Morgantown also brings back a lot of players that some starters and a lot of players that impacted that game last year. So they split last year. It was 1-1, but Morgantown got it done when it mattered the most. And Spring Mills is going to be more than hungry to come down here and get that win back, and to do it in Morgantown on the home floor of the Mohegans, who have won 50 straight games inside the Rowdy Center, which is just incredible if you think about it. So, and if there's one team that can do it, it's Spring Mills. And we know that Luke Samples said on the radio show with Metro News the other night, they like making history at Spring Mills, and that would definitely be making history. But yeah, when I look at these two teams, the one thing about both of them is they can win in multiple ways. Both teams can be successful all phases of scoring, all phases of defense. I think that in this game, it's going to come down to perimeter shooting. I know, obviously, Spring Mills has some good size with Caleb Thomas and Xavier Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're both 6'7", 6'8", and the whole team can rebound. Even Akwesi can get 6 or 7 rebounds if you let him. So that, I think the perimeter is going to be big in this game. Morgantown can shoot the ball 1 through 4. Almost all of their players can step out and knock down some shots. Cam Kellogg can come off the bench and knock down some shots if you don't get a hand up. I think that's where the game is going to be won or lost. Will be shooting. I know that's kind of cliche to say about basketball, because obviously you got to score to win, but the outside shooting is where I'm going to be watching both teams the most, because Spring Mills has improved this year with their 3-point shooting. Caleb Thomas can step out and really knock down the 3, and he can do it in motion now, which is even more than he was doing last year. He wasn't the best shooter when it comes to moving and catching the ball and but he's done that way better this year. And obviously Morgantown plays really good defense. They're winning their games by 38 points a game so far this year. So this will be their first big test. They've played good teams. They played Washington and Huntington and other great teams like that, but they haven't really been pushed like I think they will tomorrow night. So yeah, I'm really watching the perimeter, and then rebounding obviously will be big because, like I just said, anybody on Spring Mills can go out and give you 6 or 7 rebounds, and Caleb Thomas can grab 20 if you don't box him out.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'll be watching. I'll be watching that, and I'm excited to see how tomorrow plays out for sure.
Oh yes, absolutely. And a little preview of my own for both teams. I've been fortunate enough to watch both these teams play in person. I got to watch Spring Mills play at Parkersburg South at the ROAC, and in my opinion, it's one of the toughest venues to play at in the state of West Virginia. Small gym, crazy fan base. Love the fan base out there in Mid Ohio Valley. And Parkersburg South gave him a game, and they did give him a game. It was a 2-point game, almost went into overtime, but it was a game-sealing block by Caleb Thomas to finish it off, and they got the job done there. And I mean, Spring Mills, I think they have more length than Morgantown does, obviously because this the 6-7 guys, as you mentioned. Obviously, Caleb Thomas, who's most likely going to be the Bill Evans Award winner favorite this year for Spring Mills. And then, of course, you got Xavier Anderson, and then you got Bax Anderson, who's been coming off the bench recently. Everyone knows he's QB1. And has an offer from WVU, the new coaching staff over there, with Coach Rich Rod coming back. And obviously you got Tyler Jones, a really good sharpshooter, Lokai Uth Smith, who's crazy athletic. He was the one who had, let's see, I have in my notes here, whenever I was doing the stats in this game against Parkersburg South, he had 26 points, shooting 6 3-pointers. And honestly, it's really hard to shoot at Parkersburg South. And him, just getting into a rhythm there, I mean, this team can get hot in an instant. And especially at Kwesi, Go Crazy, Opoku, Champong is what Coach Samples calls him. Kwesi, he's kind of, even though he's the little 5'8", 5'9" point guard, he's their do-it-all guy other than Caleb Thomas.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he really gets the job done for them. And obviously Chase Shipley, the Martinsburg High School transfer, has been putting a lot of effort into making Spring Mills a better team. And like I said, Spring Mills is very talented. They also played in the Governor's Challenge up in Salisbury, Maryland, close to the Ocean City, Maryland area. Shout out to my guy, Jesse Simmons, who does an amazing job there. The Governor's Challenge is one of the biggest high school basketball tournaments ever, in the whole country. So, and Spring Mills winning that division there was kind of amazing to see, and it's good for the brand, good for the state. Morgantown, on the other hand, like I said, whenever I got to see them play against Lindsley, I remember you and I were talking. We were shocked. We were kind of shocked that they defeated Lindsley like that, because Lindsley, that's like a prep school there, sort of, because they have all those international guys that can play. Ruben Salazar, who's one of the coaches from West Virginia Gold, told me that he's been getting Division I interest. De'Ari Goodwin, who's going to San Diego. They got dudes. And they won that game by 40 points.
Yeah.
And then for Morgantown High School to play, like you mentioned, Washington, and then Huntington at their little General Classic at home. And, they got some good guys as well. Obviously, DeMarcus Bandy is a good shooter. Max Fry has really stepped up in a major way as a sophomore. Cam Kellogg, as you mentioned, can really get going off the three-pointer if you don't get a good hand in his face. Obviously, you got Waylon Callistra, who's a lengthier guy. Definitely need him to step up tomorrow night. But yeah, it's going to be a contest. I see it's going to be a defensive game. We all saw what happened last year, the state title game last year in Class Quad A. I mean, it was a dogfight. It went all the way to the wire in overtime, and obviously with Sharon Young winning the game 35-32 in OT. So I expect it to be another low-scoring game. I feel like it's going to be an all-defensive performance because both these teams preach defense. Eastern Panhandle defense, and Coach Tallman obviously has been preaching defense since he first came to Morgantown High School, and I've known that because obviously playing against him as a University High School alum, I've known that. So, and they've always been successful against us over the last few years. So, like I said, it's going to be a dogfight. I think it's going to be a very good matchup, and I can't wait for it, man. I think I don't really have a prediction score per se, but like I said, it is definitely going to be a dogfight for sure.
Yeah, it makes it makes all of last week like worth it, right? Like having to wait and having all the cancellations and all the games that were being canceled, like postponed and all that. Having this game tomorrow is like making that all worth it, right? So it's exciting for sure. And like you said about Morgantown, that Lindsley game, even Coach Tallman told us in the post game that he didn't even expect really that score line, right? Like that was the first game of the year for them. Too as well, and they just seemed like they were clicking, especially on the defensive end, like you said, and I think they've only given up, I don't even know like how many points. Let me see here. I pulled it up. Yeah, they haven't given up more than 48 points this year, and that was against Lindsley. And then you got 27 against Brooke, and then the last 3 games, which is weird, they've given up 38 points each to Huntington, Washington, and then they played Bishop Guilfoyle out of PA too. So their defense is making the difference for them right now, but they're still scoring at a good clip. I mean, 60 points a game at least, 88 in one and 79 in the other. So, yeah, it's gonna be a good game, and I'm curious to see, like you were talking about last year in the state championship, Spring Mills played exactly how they wanted to play, and they controlled the tempo of the game. They controlled the pace of the game. It was an overtime game, and the score was still only 35-32. Like, that's exactly how they wanted that game to go. I mean, obviously they beat them in the regular season, and I think they scored in the 60s or something. I can't remember exactly the score, but which is a more normal game for Morgantown. But the state championship game, Spring Mills was deliberate. They were keying on the tempo and on possessions and stuff like that. So I'm curious to see how that goes tomorrow, with them kind of being the so-called quote-unquote favorites. Like, they're probably the more talented team on paper right now, but it's pretty much a toss-up. But I don't know if if the game will look the same as that state title game, as far as them slowing the ball down and wanting to keep it lower scoring. I think they're a different team this year. Caleb Thomas scored 42 points in the last game. Like, they're
Right.
not gonna not want to score points. So I'm excited to see how it goes and how it plays out. It should be a really game. And if Caleb doesn't score 42, or if he doesn't even score 4 points, they can have somebody else that can come off. Chase Shipley has been playing his best basketball in the last few games. I think he's finally scored, in double digits the last few games, when he was kind of getting his footing for them in their first game. But in their first few games, I should say. So yeah, I'm excited to see him. I'm really glad that this game is in Morgantown this year, and that I have the chance to go. And Morgantown always has a great crowd. They have a good fan base and good community that shows up to every single game. And tomorrow is going to be shoulder to shoulder, standing room only, probably. So I can't wait for that.
Oh yeah, me neither. And I expect some Eastern Panhandle folks to make the trip down to Morgantown as well.
Yeah,
I hope so too. I feel like it's gonna be. I mean, in my opinion, I think it's the regular season game of the year. I mean, it's definitely gonna be a big game. So, I mean, if you guys like to show up, Morgantown High School versus Spring Mills, it's supposed to be tomorrow, 7:30. If the weather changes, if weather changes things like it has been over this past week, like I said, Twitter is, we'll let you guys know if we have any updates on the game there.
Really, we can just another big game this week. We have Morgantown University actually play on Friday. I didn't know if you were interested in that game too, but MHS UHS on Friday. That should be a pretty good one.
Oh, so it's Friday?
Yeah, I think. Let's see. Is it the 17th? Yeah, University at Morgantown. So that should be a good one. I'm excited to watch that one too. And then Morgantown has Wheeling Park next week, so they got a couple tough games coming up here. So.
Oh yeah, that's good. But I am making my first ever Eastern Panhandle trip this Friday, actually, to watch Spring Mills play again at the Cardinal Coliseum between their arch rival from the EPAC, Hedgesville High School. They have some good players in their team as well. They did have a little close game with Martinsburg. I saw the highlights of that game last weekend. Martinsburg is they're still a really good team like they were last year, even though they lost Chase Shipley. They still got Sean Cheek, Anthony Owuna, the Zion Dua dude, who's still like a 6'5" forward. I think he started last year. And then Hedgesville, they got the Phillip Barber transfer, T.D. Bawkins, who's really stepped up for them, and Xavier Kirk. So even though like everyone knows that Spring Mill's the top team in the EPAC is right now, but I do believe that Hedgesville should give them a little bit of a game because I do know that that game is usually like a big game for them every single year. So
Yeah,
that should be big, and I can't
for
wait
sure.
to make it down there for the first time ever.
Yeah, a lot of good basketball ahead, man, and I definitely hope to see you down the road. So
Yes, sir. And well, I did put on the title there, top games that I got to see throughout the month of December, and I feel like we just gone through them a little bit here
yeah,
because
a
we were
little bit.
talking about the Little General Holiday Classic. One of my favorite games that I got to see from that was University playing Huntington and
Hmm.
was it double overtime?
Yeah, I believe so.
And then they ended up winning that game. And let's see, it said
Yeah.
here, I got in my notes here, Luke Byer had a good game. Glenn Brown actually was the one that had the game-winning layup over Huntington in that
Hmm.
double overtime finish. So
Yeah,
let's talk a little bit. Yeah.
The Hawks are playing well. They're 6-1 right now. Their only loss has been to Washington, which is actually in the Little General Classic, and that was by 15. And I, I don't think they played their best game. I mean, that loss isn't telling of their team.
Hmm.
Washington just shot the lights out of the ball that game too. They shot really well, and Washington's a good team. They're not anything to blow over, right? Like Washington has all the EPAC teams that have talent, and
Oh yeah.
Washington, they got some big guys. They have some athletic guys. And then University went down to I believe it was Charleston, South Carolina, and they won 3 straight games against teams from out of state, which is always nice to do. I think it was the North Carolina, maybe a team from Charlotte, and then maybe a team from Atlanta, something like that. They were supposed to go play Parkersburg South, but I believe that game they had a few games moved. Park South and Musselman were both canceled. I think they're going to Musselman tonight, actually, so they may be there playing as we speak.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
And we'll see how that game goes. I might be able to find it on YouTube here in a second, but yeah.
Hmm.
So the Hawks look pretty good. They beat Fort Hill by like 23 or something like that recently. Um,
Hmm.
which is a decent team, good athletic school too. So yeah, the Hawks look pretty good. Big test against Morgantown on Friday. Like I said, that'll be a game where they'll be able to find out who they really are, and that'll be a good test for them to see how they play against some of the best teams in the state. Because I expect University to be in Charleston this year, especially with how the classes have moved around, and with team like Wheeling Park's a little down this year. University's tough to beat this year with their bench too. So I expect them to be in Charleston, and seeing where they are against Morgantown will give them a better idea of where they need to improve and what they can keep doing to help them get to the state tournament this year. So
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, this is a pretty good University team, and like you said, it is going to be a big test for them. Let's see. I do have the boys basketball coaches poll here from this is in the third regular season. I don't know. They haven't updated one for this week yet,
right.
but as what I've seen here, Spring Mills and Morgantown are the top two in Class Quad A, with Spring Mills with 9 first place votes and Morgantown with 3 first place votes, with GW at 3, Woodrow Wilson at 4, and Spring Valley is at that number 5 spot, along with South Charleston, Martinsburg, Parkersburg South University, and Hedgesville. And to finish off the top 10, AAA Nitro with 9 first place votes, Shady Spring with 6 first place votes, Bridgeport with and Herbert Hoover with
Mm-hmm.
1 first place vote. And I actually got to see Herbert Hoover play on New Year's Eve against North Marion. It was at North Marion, and I remember I posted that video with Mr. Donnie Brown hitting that game-winning 3 to seal
Yeah.
the win, because North Marion's a pretty decent. I mean, they're a pretty good team, especially in their region. They usually, they make it to the state tournament every year. They always do a really good job every single year. So, so for Herbert to get the job done there, Donnie Brown, Dane Hatfield, they got some good guys coming from football to play basketball over there. So they got some good athletes there. Class AA, Wheeling Central, Logan, Williamstown, that top 3 spot. Got to see Williamstown play at Logan High School this weekend at the Willie Acres Classic. There were some games that were supposed to be played, but unfortunately due to weather there, since Logan, I was actually there during a winter storm warning, and they had some teams cancel. Obviously, I think we saw that coming, but it was still a fun tournament to be at. Never been to Logan High School, never been to Willie Acres Arena, and finally got to cross off my bucket list. So I'm glad I got to do that here.
You got to meet the man himself too, right?
Oh yeah, I've met him before last
Okay.
year in Charleston, but it was nice that I got to see him
Cool.
again.
Yeah,
But yeah, Logan's a good team. They got the 6'3" freshman Lucas Lambert. He was going off that whole weekend. They also got Zayden Sherrod, a really good athletic player on their team. They got McCormick Elderton, who stepped up against Logan in the second half. They got that big win over Williamstown last Saturday. So yeah, other than Wheeling Central, Logan is that other team in Class AA that could actually make a run for sure.
Yeah, I think AAA and AA both have a few teams that we didn't really expect to be in that mix. Bridgeport, they're playing amazing. I mean, obviously they were a talented group. We knew they were a talented group coming into the year, but they are just playing out of their minds right now and look to be really one of the favorites in AAA this year to win the state title, which is crazy to think about. Not really crazy to think about, but it's surprising for sure. And then, like you said, Logan in AA obviously is playing really well. Always a good program. Last few years have been a little shaky, obviously, since they lost a pretty good class a few years ago, I think. So
right.
So yeah, it's nice seeing a few teams that no one really ranked in the top 6, in the top 7 at the beginning of the year that are establishing themselves as state title potential winners, or state title contenders, I should say. And yeah, I think it's really in any class, it's anybody's game right now. It's just there are so many good teams and so many good players that have emerged already in the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season, and I know that a lot of people this week are excited to play. I mean, obviously they didn't get to play much last week, and they were probably practicing against their teammates. They're excited to see another jersey and try to play against their team finally. So I'm expecting some good performances, some good games this week and going forward, and I think that we're just on a crash course to Charleston, and that once we get there, it's going to be crazy.
Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be crazy there. And lastly, I put single A here, Tucker County, Tug Valley. Got to see both teams play. Got to see Tucker County play at the Lincoln Shootout before 2024 ended. Play against the Philip Barber team, AA, dominated there. Greater Beckley Christian got to see them play at that Bridgeport High School Holiday Classic against Lewis County in AAA. They gave them a game, but Greater Beckley Christian held their own. They got some, like I mentioned before in the preview, they have some good players. Drew Fitzwater, who transferred from Woodrow Wilson, coming over there. He's got a couple of Division III offers. And obviously played under Coach Ronnie Newsom for West Virginia Reign this offseason. So he's really stepped up in a major way, and has definitely led the Crusaders to high heights here and single A here, and it's spot on with the top 3 there in Class A. And I got to see Tug Valley, who also got a big major win there at Logan against Williamstown last weekend. So yeah, like you said, a lot of good talent everywhere, and they already mentioned someone mentioned the chat, Eli Sankum. Obviously cannot forget about Eli Sankum as well, one of the best of the best, in my opinion, other than Caleb Thomas, the other best player in the state of West Virginia. And you're right, Wheeling Central may have the best player in AA, and Eli Sankum, you were correct on that. And okay, so we got that game covered. Morgantown Spring Mills, we already went through that. I do know that University Parkersburg South game, I think that's on Tuesday. I'm just gonna check here.
Let me see. I got it pulled up right here.
Okay. I know it's on a Tuesday sometime. Let me just check right over here. 21st or 28th? I can't really remember.
Let me see.
I think there was.
So it was the 3rd. It got moved, didn't it? I have the schedule right here, actually.
Because I know they rescheduled that game.
I want to say the 28th. Let me.
I know it had it written down.
You're right. It's the 21st. Park 21st, South.
Okay.
Sorry, Parkersburg South at University at 7:30 p.m. So,
All right, so
yeah,
I know
for
I'm going
sure.
to that game, and then we got the 25th. I know that's the Morgantown is going to be playing against the favorite in AAA as of right now,
Yeah,
Nitro. Nitro is doing a good job so far, and that'll be the first time I get to see them play. And that's definitely a tough test for Nitro going up against a Morgantown team like that, a neutral site
yeah.
at Magnolia High School, where
Well, you say neutral, but hey, that's the home of the Tallmans, man. You
that's the home of the
know?
Tallman. I was just about to mention that. I was just about to mention that.
No,
Mr.
I'm
Dave
kidding. I'm
Tallman
kidding.
Sr. there, head coach over there at Magnolia. Yeah, that's like New Martinsville. That's where that's the Tallman's home there. So, and they're used to playing down over there in Magnolia High School. And honestly, I've never been there, so I can't wait to make the trip over there. And I
Yeah,
know Tucker County's playing Williamstown, so that's be a good game as well. Um,
cool.
and then trying to see any other top games for the month of January. Do you have any top games for the month of January that you're going to?
Let me look through here. So I'm actually this week. I'll be heading to Clay Battelle and Tigers Valley out there in Blacksville. They're both, I believe, top 10 in the coaches poll in single A
Mhm.
right now, right?
Yeah.
They were supposed to play, I want to say last week, and it got moved. So that's one that's circled on my schedule for sure. Let's see. Like I said, UHS in Morgantown this Friday. I'll be heading to that. Let me scroll through here. Park South University, you mentioned that one. Preston at North Marion, they're going to be playing on the 23rd. I know that's a quad A and a triple A game, but I think that'll be also a pretty pretty good game.
Yeah. I
We
know that
got
Preston's doing a pretty good job so far this season, so I definitely would like to check him out.
Preston are very improved this year. They got a good roster. They play really hard. Aiden Schmidl is probably one of the more improved players and one of the more surprises this year. He can score the ball really well. They had a pretty bad loss to Buchanan Upshur, where they probably should have won that game. They would be 5-1. They beat St. Albans, who beat Nitro, and they would be 5-1, which not a lot of people expected. So yeah, Preston looks pretty good this year. They might get caught up in the postseason being in that section with Morgantown University, but they beat Wheeling Park as well, another good win on the road. So
Yep.
so yeah, good call from that one. And they'll head to Philip Barber on January 30th on the road. I think that'll be a good game too. And then obviously at the end of the month, January 30th and February 1st. I know it's February, but it's the same weekend. You got the Battle for the Spring House down at the Greenbrier. That's going to have Morgantown and Spring Mills in the field. I expect maybe we'll see a rematch of tomorrow night's game in the Greenbrier on February 1st. So that'd be another one to watch out for too.
Oh yeah, I agree. And I'm on February 1st. I'm actually going to be making my way up to the Mid Ohio Valley once again to watch Williamstown take on Wheeling Central. This will be the first time I'll get to see Wheeling Central play this season. Well, actually, I'll get to watch Wheeling Central play at Notre Dame in Clarksburg because Clarksburg's my area. So I'll go ahead and check them out there just to see what they look like before they play Williamstown February 1st. But what I've seen throughout the highlights for Wheeling Central, especially against that game against Lindsley, I mean, we already know about Eli. I've been meaning to talk about this, but what about Luke Sankum, the little brother of Eli? That kid is phenomenal. Kid's like about 5'7", 5'8", maybe. I mean, he's a little guy, but he gets the job done. He rebounds the ball. He was rebounding the ball against those big guys. He was shooting lights out from three. He had 5 threes in that big win over Lindsley. So yeah, Wheeling Central is the real deal, and better look out for not just Eli, but Luke Sankum as well. So wanted to let you guys know about that. So, but yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up here, Mr. Michael. It's always a pleasure. Hope to see you tomorrow for the game. And for those of you guys who are watching, yes, Morgantown and Spring Mills is going to be the ORS game of the month tomorrow night at the Rowdy Center at Morgantown High School. I encourage you all basketball fans, to be there. It is going to be a phenomenal battle between these two teams. But like I said, if anything changes, I'll let you guys know on Twitter for any updates on the game. But as always, I'm Ollie Reed. This is Michael Griffith. This is Ollie Reed Sports Podcast. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.